Hey guys, this video is for educational purposes only. Please do not break the law. Ladies and gentlemen, today I have a very special guest, Mr. Matt Beechinor, one of the founders of Munch Machine, which many of you may be aware of, is one of the big post-harvest companies. They specialize in buckers. Matt, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Growers MBA podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to doing this with you.
Matt, I'd love to ask you, how did you get started in this industry?
So, a friend of mine, Tom Fraser, a wonderful human, happens to be a third generation in the manufacturing of hop harvesting equipment for beer hops. And, Downhower Manufacturing is the name of that company. They've been in business since the 1940s for about 80 years. And they were getting calls from the cannabis industry in about 2014. As growers got bigger and bigger, they were having labor issues and they were looking for harvest automation, and they started reaching out to Downhower as a result. And I was hired to pursue if we could come up with anything to automate cannabis harvest.
Okay, cool. So you were originally, were you part of the kind of like the beer industry or the hop industry, or you have an engineering background?
Well, I don't have an engineering background, but I am a farm kid who grew up on a traditional farm, and I'd say as a result have various skills that allowed me to help develop the original bucking machine. And of course, once we'd kind of got through the concept phase, it became way above my skill level, and we got real engineers involved to create the finished product and the bucking machines that we have on the market to this day.
Awesome. So what I want to do before we jump too far into this podcast, to just kind of clear things up, can you explain like what exactly is a bucking machine, and what is the difference kind of between a bucking machine and just like a trimmer?
Yeah. So a bucker is the first step in the harvest process. It removes the flowers or the buds from the stem. And so before they get trimmed up, they have to get removed from the stem first.
Okay, got it. So it's a pretty important process. And, we'll splice over some videos here because you guys have some awesome videos on your website where they actually show it going through one of your guys' machines and how the buds get stripped from that. So this is basically, so for bucking machines, it's basically the first step of the process before you move on to the trimming part.
Yeah, so growers were reaching out to Downhower Manufacturing looking for automation solutions for harvest, and cannabis and hops are cousins in the plant kingdom, so it was kind of natural to reach out to Downhower, who's a global leader in hops harvesting equipment. And I'd say that we took some inspiration from that hops harvesting equipment. But of course, for cannabis, being that the flower is the end product in most cases, we had to really highly specialize something to treat it very gently and create a machine that would, I would say, both add a lot of value relative to speeding up the harvest process and making it far more efficient, but critically not damage the flower at all. And that's a super important part. Obviously, the flower is so important that you don't want to damage it all in the harvest process.
Yeah, and that's what we get a lot of questions like that from a lot of growers. Is they're used to doing things manually, they're used to doing things with their hands. A lot of times they do want to upgrade to some sort of automation, but it's really scary for them because they don't want to downgrade the quality of their bud, have it get messed up by some machine that's not very gentle with things. So that's something that Munch Machine kind of specializes in, I guess.
Yeah, without a doubt. Our sales team does a lot of on-site demos, and I would say that the number one thing that harvest crews are surprised by is how gentle our machine is on the flower and how little damage it does, all the while picking up all that efficiency and speeding up the process so much. So something that would take hours previously now takes minutes, and you end up with a really high quality product.
So let's jump into it. There's a lot of bucking machines out there. There's a lot of competitors you guys have. So how does Munch Machine stand out versus the other competitors? What is your guys' kind of unique selling point? How does the machine work compared to others? What are the differences here?
Yeah, I would say that one of the big things that sets us apart is the fact that we offer industrial quality. That is really important. We work with some really large growers, and the bigger you are, the more important it is that your equipment doesn't break down during harvest. It becomes super critical when you become a really large grower because you've got so many people involved, such large crops. The potential loss is huge if you can't get your crop harvested. And so without a doubt, industrial quality is one of those big factors that we're known for. And then I would say the other one is grip. And this is one of the keys to a bucking machine. It has to be powerful for sure, but you have to be able to put that power into action. It's kind of like having a hot rod car with skinny tires, you know? If you can't put the power to the ground, your big engine is pointless. And as that applies to bucking machines, grip is an incredibly important factor, and it allows you, if your machine has really good grip, to pull the stems through or even full plants through the die plate, removing those buds from the stems without clogging. And so we're very well known for having industrial quality and having the machine, I would say, that works better than all of them on the market, relative to grip and actually functioning properly and never clogging.
Hey guys, quick interruption here. I just want to let you know that every single product mentioned on this episode is available for sale at greenthumbdepot.com. We love hearing from growers just like you. So if you mention that you heard about us on this episode, we might even be able to throw in a bit of a discount. You can shoot me a personal email at james@greenthumbdepot.com or give us a call at 833-416-0375. We have the best prices on the internet and the best customer service. Not to mention, we offer free shipping across the continental US. All right, let's get back to the episode. Okay, cool. So the main difference is when people purchase this product, they don't have to worry about it breaking down because of the history you guys have in farming and just working in that industry for so long. You know, you guys have a lot of experience with this type of thing. So industrial part is one thing. And then the grip. So I'm curious, how does your guys' grip or whatever that functionality, how does that differ from other competitors out there? What's the Munch Machine specialty?
I mean, it looks like a simple machine. And, you know, as a result, we had a lot of companies make quick, cheap copies. And it's like anything. Things aren't as easy as they appear. We put a tremendous amount of effort into, I would say, both the pressure that's applied between our rollers, finding that kind of Goldilocks formula, and the type of roller, and it's a custom roller inside of our machine for our standard roller machines, that creates really good grip in comparison to a lot of the cheap ripoffs that are out there. You know, we did invent the bucking machine. We're the patent holder on it, and we put a tremendous amount of effort into solving the problem properly before we released our product.
Awesome. And so when someone purchases one of your guys' buckers, do they have to worry about damaging the flower at all? What does that look like?
You know, again, I'd say we do a lot of demos, and it's the number one thing people are surprised by, the quality of the flower coming off the machine. And one of the keys there is we have variable speed control on all of our machines. And so you can slow the machine down to a real crawl. And if you're working with more delicate flowers, say some of those sativas or looser buds like that, you can really slow the machine down and minimize any damage.
Okay, cool. So that's going to be really helpful for a lot of different types of farms. You know, depending on what exactly you're growing, you can kind of customize it. That's amazing to hear, I'm sure. So my next question is, you know, a lot of farms they may have it dry, they may have the yield as wet cannabis. So do the buckers work for both fresh and dry cannabis?
They do, for sure. And fresh is pretty simple. You know, the key to getting really good quality results while bucking fresh is to have the plant be as fresh as possible. So once you cut the stems or cut the entire plant out of the field, you don't want to have it laying around too long in the sun and not let it wilt before you run it through the machine. It also helps to be working in cooler temperatures and stay out of the heat of the day when you're bucking fresh. Dry bucking is a little bit more challenging. That's when you've hung your plants to dry before you run them through the bucking machine. And the key there is moisture content. And people typically hand buck at around 10% moisture, and we need a little bit more than that, about 12 to 14%. The key that you're really looking for is for the buds to be in the springy stage of drying. And if you catch the cannabis at that right point in moisture, then you can get really good results with dry bucking as well and minimize damage. And you can see in this video what I'm talking about with the springiness of the buds when it comes to dry bucking. And you can get some really quality results if you're hitting the right moisture content.
So you mentioned getting the best results from your bucking machine. Do you have any advice for someone to maximize the throughput with the bucking machine? How is that done?
Yeah, for sure. So the key to getting good throughput is having a machine that doesn't clog. That's the key. And that's what our machines are known for. They have tremendous grip. And so you can reliably put those stems in there or the entire plant in the case of our cluster bucker and have it pull the plant through without clogging. And that's one of the keys to throughput. And the next one's very simple. It's just a simple game of putting stems in holes as quickly as possible. And the key to that really is upstream and having all the plants prepped properly by your harvest team and having the bucker operator never stop working, just putting stems in holes, and then you can really hit those high throughput numbers.
Okay, got it. So that's why the grip is so important. Number one, having strong grip means that you never have to worry about it getting clogged up. And obviously clogs are going to slow you down, and that's probably the worst thing you want when it comes to this thing, right? Is just getting slowed down trying to unclog these things. It seems like there's quite a bit that goes into this. You were talking about, prepping everything beforehand, all that good stuff. And your guys' products, they're definitely a premium product on the market. So my question is, what type of training do you guys offer and post-purchase support? How much do you guys help people kind of understand all the preparations that go into this, what needs to be done to make sure they're maximizing throughput?
Yeah, so we're super invested in trying to help growers achieve both the most efficiency they can and getting the highest quality out of their end product for their flower. And we're always available for support and advice. We've got a whole sales team distributed throughout the country that runs around to different grows and will visit the grow on site and offer advice to their harvest team. We've also got a YouTube channel with a bunch of instructional videos, both from a harvest perspective and to perform maintenance on our machines. And then we also have a blog on our website called Buck University. And there you can find a lot of the same information, how to maximize throughput, how to maximize quality of flower, dry bucking, maintenance, cleaning tips. So between our sales team, the YouTube videos, and our Buck University blog, we're super invested in customer success.
I love to hear how much effort you guys put into making sure the customers succeed. And I think anybody listening to this can purchase with confidence, knowing that after they buy, you're going to be well taken care of no matter what. Which leads me to my next question. What type of warranty do you guys have? I mean, I know these are industrial machines. They should last, but what type of warranty or even return policy you guys offer?
Yeah, for sure. One of the most important things is we build industrial quality machines that rarely, if ever, break down. And that's super important. But in the event of a breakdown, we have a 5-year warranty and we back it up very seriously. And, a warranty is only as good as the company that backs it up. And I would encourage anybody listening to this to, call around, ask around in the cannabis industry who's got a good reputation relative to building quality products and backing them up. I highly encourage people to call around, ask their friends those reputations, and I think ours speaks for itself.
Great to hear. So I actually want to jump into your guys' actual products. You guys have mainly 3 different buckers, and then you guys also have conveyors. Let's jump into the mother bucker. I'd love to know a little bit more about this. Who is this designed for? What can someone expect out of it? How does it work? I'd love to just hear anything you have to say about it.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say none of our equipment is geared towards a hobbyist or a home grower. We're really designing equipment for professional growers who want a piece of equipment that they can trust to operate on a continuous basis. And we literally have growers that, during the heart of an, say, big harvest can operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week as they're bringing in those big crops and not have their machine break down or have any downtime. So that's one of the keys, and it's true for all of our equipment. Relative to our smallest machine, which is the mother bucker, you can harvest at a rate of 150 pounds per hour of fresh cannabis. That's a wet number, or fresh. And that's an average number. So for sure, I've had growers tell me that they can harvest way faster than that with that machine. But we like to advertise averages that we know are achievable to farmers, because we don't want to, I would say, put out numbers that don't set people up for success. And so all the numbers that we advertise, we for sure stand behind them when it comes to those throughput numbers, and I would say can prove that those numbers can be achieved, and that's super important to us. That mother bucker being our smaller machine, a single-headed bucker, doing about 150 pounds per hour, and it's good for a guy that I would say has anything north of 5,000 square feet of cannabis. The return on investment on that a machine like that is, if you've got maybe 20,000 square foot grow, our growers report back to us that they've got a return on investment on labor savings within the first year or first harvest for a grow of that size.
Yeah, and I think that's really what comes down to it when you're investing in something like this. I think that's really what people are going to be interested in hearing is, what is the return on investment for this going to be? You said 150 pounds per hour? That's awesome. I mean, that's that's definitely going to be able to beat hand bucking. So, 5,000 square meters is not necessarily a small grow, but anyone that's around that area, I think should absolutely consider this.
I would say on that note, we have a great ROI calculator on our website for our products. And if growers are trying to figure out which machine's best for them and how quickly they could pay the machine off in labor savings, we've built a great ROI calculator that's available on the product pages on our website.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking at that right now. So if you guys head to munchmachine.com and you just go to any of those products, they've got a really cool looking ROI calculator, which I'll kind of overlay that on this as I'm talking about it. So yeah, cool. So that's the mother bucker. Looks like it's got some great grip, as you said. And is there anything you can comment on exactly how it works, or?
Yeah, it's a pretty simple machine. It's electrically driven. It's got a 0.5 horsepower motor. You can run it in your facility indoors. We've got indoor casters for the indoor guys, and then we've got these off-road tires if you want to use it out in the field. It easily runs off of a small generator. And so you can be out in pretty remote places using the machine as well. And both the mother bucker and the double version of it, the double bucker, are traditional roller-driven bucking machines. And the rollers are what's inside. It's the mechanism that's inside that pulls the stem through the die plate. And so that double bucker is basically 2 bucking heads in one machine driven by one motor. It's got a larger motor on it, a full horsepower. And you can then run, twice the amount of material through a double bucker that you do a mother bucker. That's about 300 pounds per hour on average. It's a great machine as well. And again, the more of the traditional bucker roller driven double-headed version of the mother bucker.
Cool. And yeah, these things are obviously quite portable with those wheels. I'm looking at it right now. It's a pretty beautiful machine. So there's also an ROI calculator on the website. So highly recommend checking that out. So let's talk about your guys' most premium product you guys have, the cluster bucker. I've watched videos of this thing working, and it's pretty awesome. It's pretty addicting. It's pretty satisfying watching this thing just chew through the stems and just completely debudding all of it, like so flawlessly. So yeah, let's talk about this one. This is obviously your guys' most premium product.
Well, the cluster bucker is a totally new kind of bucking machine. And, I've talked about how important grip is in this call a lot. It's the key to a good bucking machine is grip and being able to pull through material quickly. And so, with that knowledge, we had growers asking for higher and higher throughput. And I would say that we were at the limitations relative to a roller-driven machine. So we took an entirely new approach to it. And instead of rollers within the cluster bucker, it's 2 belt cassettes. So if you can imagine, as 2 rollers come together, there's only about an inch of contact on those rollers that creates that grip. Well, on the cluster bucker, being that there are 2 belts that are in there that are pulling the stem through, you've got about 20 inches of contact with that stem. And as a result, throughput goes way up because you can put larger and larger material through that machine. And when it comes to that cluster bucker, it's the only bucker on the market that can buck full plants in one pass. So you can literally take a indoor or greenhouse grown plant and put the entire plant through the machine. And I've personally bucked, and we can show you videos of running entire 6-foot tall greenhouse grown plants through that cluster bucker, and it strips the entire plant in one pass. And that is the only machine on the market that is capable of doing that. And again, it's a super unique design that's new to bucking machines, and the only one like it on the market.
Yeah, I'm looking at this just kind of as you're talking. It's pretty amazing. I mean, having that huge, those two pink, well, I don't know what you call them, drippers or whatever. Yeah, that definitely looks powerful. I'm seeing some of these pictures of massive plants getting fed into there, and I've never seen anything like that before. So super impressive. Definitely seems like a powerful machine.
Yeah, the cluster bucker is, again, geared towards the, really bigger growers out there. And, we like to say it's the most capable bucker on the market, because you've got different die plates that it comes with that you can install on the front of the machine. So we've got the keyhole die plate, which is meant for, the highest throughput stuff. And then we can also put just a standard round hole die plate on the front of the machine. And since the cluster bucker also has variable speed control, you can slow it down, and you've got a standard die plate. Not only can it buck for high quality flower, one stem at a time, just like our mother bucker and double bucker do, but you can switch out the die plate or run those larger holes, crank up that speed control to 10, and the cluster bucker puts every other bucker out there to shame at that point. And there's no other bucker out there that can keep up with its throughput. And I've personally bucked over 1,000 pounds per hour through that cluster bucker. And we've got videos again on YouTube that prove these numbers. In 2 minutes, I buck over 25 or 30 pounds an hour through it. And it's just unstoppable. It's an absolute beast.
1,000 pounds per hour is absolutely no joke. And I think that any serious farmer should consider that. That's absolutely wild. So I want to touch on the last kind of bit. Maybe these would be, I don't know if you call them accessories or what, but can we talk about your guys' conveyors? Like what are the use cases for these, and when should someone consider a conveyor? Like what functionality do they add to a bucker?
Yeah, so when it comes to maximizing efficiency through a harvest system, it's all about material flow. It's all about bringing that material into the system and keeping it flowing through the system without stopping. And as that applies to a bucking machine, the reason conveyors are so important is because if you fill up a bin, you need to stop and switch out that bin. And so a lot of people don't use conveyors and they buck into a bin, but it definitely slows you down. So the key again is to get that material flowing through the system. So if you can buck your flour and have it fall onto a conveyor belt and just move away from the bucker operator, basically that bucker operator never stops working. They're just putting stems in holes and bucking as quickly as possible without stopping. And I would say the higher throughput you have, the more important it is to introduce a conveyor belt into the system. As that applies to our range of machines, it almost becomes, you just have to have a conveyor belt when it comes to that cluster bucker, because if you're filling up a bin every 2 minutes, and you're having to move that bin out of the way, you can imagine how impactful that is to, slowing down the harvest process. And instead, if you can have that flour hit a conveyor belt and just move downstream away from the bucker operator, then they never have to stop working. Our conveyors are a very unique design, and our engineers did some really clever things when it comes to our conveyor belts. So one is they mount directly to each of our machines and are specifically built for our machines. So once you mount the conveyor belt to the bucker, it moves as one unit together. Most conveyor belts that you'll see out of there from other companies have a separate stand. It's really clunky, and it's separate from the machine that it's supposed to be working with. The advantage to mounting that conveyor belt to the bucking machine, we built these handy brackets that basically allow you to slide the conveyor belt away from the machine and tilt it so that it's easy to clean. And conveyor belts are notoriously hard to clean in the cannabis industry. And so we felt like we solved a lot of those problems by mounting it to the machine and coming up with that bracket that allows it to slide and tilt away, allowing you to access all sides of the conveyor belt during the cleaning process the guarding comes off without tools, and the actual conveyor belt splits in half and very easily comes off the conveyor belt, so you can do a deep clean inside there. And that's really key to these operations, cleaning the machine, not only the conveyor belts but the buckers after each harvest is really critical to not having any contamination, because the testing standards within the cannabis industry are very strict, and as a result you need to clean your machines on a daily basis after harvest to prevent contamination. And so our conveyors are designed in a way that really allow you to clean them very easily.
So in an industry where efficiency is obviously one of the most important parts of the entire process, having a conveyor belt, which makes it so you don't have to constantly replace the bucket, so you don't have to constantly spend hours and hours trying to get it absolutely like spotless clean, and being able to just avoid having to constantly replace the buckets, being able to constantly make sure that it's easily cleanable, it just overall seems like a very good addition to any of the buckers that you guys are purchasing. This has been super insightful for me. We sell your guys' products, and being able to learn more about them is always great. Obviously, it's not the easiest industry to learn about, so I really appreciate you taking your time on that. I'd love to ask you, can you share some case studies or success stories of companies that have either switched to or just invested straight up in a Munch Machine bucker and what their results were like?
Yeah, I'd say that we're known as the industry standard when it comes to bucking machines. And as a result, we work with some of the biggest names in the industry. And those guys report back to us. I would say the largest of those growers tell us that they literally can't do it without us. It would be an impossibility to harvest at their scale. And we're talking about guys with, 20 plus acres of cannabis or hemp. The labor force required to buck a field like that becomes untenable. And so you have to automate at that kind of scale. The largest guys out there can't do it without us. When it comes to your average grower, they report back about a 7x efficiency. So it makes the process about 7 to 10 times faster, which obviously has a massive impact on labor savings. And then I would say we have a lot of customers out there that bought some of these cheaper buckers first. So, they saw the promise of a bucking machine and they didn't want to spend as much money at first, and so they bought a cheaper bucker as a result. And a lot of those customers have now come and bought our machine. And the reason is it works, and it boils down to what we were talking about earlier. It's all about grip. And the reality of a cheaper, smaller bucking machine is that they lack the grip and power to actually offer the efficiency that we're talking about. So it takes a powerful bucker with really good grip in order to offer the efficiency and the labor savings that we've been talking about throughout this call. And the cheaper buckers just can't do it. And we've got a lot of customers that, again, bought a cheaper bucker first and then came and bought our machine later.
Yeah, and just to comment on that, we get a lot of our customers who are very worried because it's the exact same situation. They end up buying a bucker or even a trimmer or anything like that, some large piece of equipment that ends up being basically just a huge paperweight because it just sits in the back of the warehouse or whatever and just takes up space. And so we get tons of people who they have very successful farms, but they just haven't been able to find like a truly really really high quality product that actually is helping with their efficiency. And obviously some of the companies you're working with, some huge companies you're working with, reporting 7x efficiency is nothing to shy about. Super impressive to hear that, and I know next time we have someone looking for a bucker, we're definitely going to push your guys' name. So last couple questions, I like to kind of end things off with a couple fun questions. Maybe just some industry experience that you can some sage advice as someone who's been in the industry for a while. Other than investing in a high quality bucking machine like one of yours, what are some advice you have for budding entrepreneurs for maximizing profits, ensuring a high quality yield for cannabis growers?
I'd say when it comes to trying to strike a balance between efficiency and end product quality, getting as quality a bud as you can out of your crop, a fun combination that I think works really well is to use a bucking machine to wet buck, and then you dry those flowers on a rack and then dry trim them later once they've dried down. And the reason for that is a bucking machine doesn't degrade smell or taste of the flower at all when smoked. But a trimming machine does. If you trim a flower wet, it ends up smelling like hay instead of cannabis. And so what I'm offering here, wet bucking, rack drying, and dry trimming, is a really nice balance between picking up a lot of harvest efficiency, but not degrading the end product at all. And that's something that I see a lot of growers doing these days.
Okay, so that was wet buck. So take the wet or the fresh cannabis, putting that through the bucker. And I guess the reason why that works is just because it's maybe a little bit harder to damage. So you put that through and then you dry it on a rack and you still have your high quality buds that weren't damaged or anything like that because they're a little bit more, a little bit tougher, I guess. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, it's just the fact that you're not wet trimming, which does degrade smell and taste, and you can pick up that efficiency. It's just a balance between efficiency and end product quality. And of course, without a doubt, we can dry buck as well, and we have a lot of growers that do that. I would say about 30 to 40% of our growers do go ahead and dry on the stem and then dry buck, but it is less efficient as a result because basically when you harvest, you go and hang your entire crop up only to take it back down and then start your harvest process. So you've gotten it out of the field, but you haven't actually harvested anything yet. And it's way more efficient to go ahead and buck it wet, rack dry it, and then dry trim it later. And that's a great balance.
That's some amazing advice. Good alpha, as we call it, for any of the budding entrepreneurs out there. All these conversations I've had with people, the main thing I'm hearing is just like efficiency. Everybody's trying to be efficient. So being able to figure out that balance between efficiency while also maintaining the quality of the bud seems to be like, really, if you could figure out that's like the magic sauce right there. My final question for you is obviously the U.S. government has decided to change the scheduling of cannabis nationwide, it appears. So how do you think that's going to affect the industry?
Yeah, the rescheduling, I believe, will offer potential tax relief. 280E has been very burdensome to the industry, and hopefully that goes away. I do think it could lead to more liberal banking laws for the industry, and as a result, easier access to capital. So I think rescheduling will offer some tailwinds to the industry, but the realities of what we're going through for the past, I would say, 4 or 5 years here in these legalized states will continue. And that reality is very similar to traditional agriculture. And that's, if you've got a crop out there with a good commodity price, farmers are going to overproduce it and crash the commodity price. And, the game for a traditional farmer, and I think it's more and more true for cannabis farmers these days, is, you're a price taker, not a price maker. The commodity price is what it is. And so the game becomes, how can I drive down my cost of production to get profitable? And the key there has always been efficiency. And traditional farmers have always chased efficiency to every end in their operation that they can. Harvest is simply one of them. And I would say that cannabis growers need to be looking for efficiency and driving down their cost of production as much as possible. And if you do that and you've got a very low cost of production while maintaining a very high quality product, it allows growers to survive the lean times when the commodity prices crash as they have in the last couple of years, and then thrive when it's really good. And if traditional farming offers any advice in that realm, I would say that if you are able to do that, if you're able to get efficient, then when the commodity price crashes, you survive and buy your neighbor's farm and get bigger and thrive when times and those good prices return.
Cool. So it sounds like the name of the game is efficiency. And what better way to be efficient than investing in a Munch Machine bucker? So shout out to Matt. Thank you so much for educating me on this and anyone listening. I learned a lot and I really appreciate your time. Just to let everyone know, you can purchase any of these Munch Machine buckers through greenthumbdepot.com, and we'd love to help you guys out with that. Thank you so much, Matt.